Greetings and salute. You know what? No. This is our last Marvel Top 5. Face front, true believers. This is the Two Nerds Podcast. I'm Smiling Eric J. Chucky here with my dear friend the boy.
Am I Jack Kirby in this analogy?
My dear friend Jack Kirby.
Oh no. All of my credits.
Excelsior!
Oh, we love you, Stan.
This is the Two Nerds Podcast. Today we're talking about our top 5 ex-villains. Couple of things to get out the way before we get here.
Yeah, do the spiel.
And like the spiel, we're going to roll a little slower. We're going to tell a little backstory because we're going to have to play for time a little bit on this one, I feel.
Let's spread out. Let's set the table for the listeners. It's been a couple times since we've explained the whole concept, I think.
Yeah, well, let's get the rigmarole out the way first. Description of this video is a bunch of links you can click. You can buy my books. The 5th one just came out about a year ago. I like it a lot. I think it's a great jumping on point for the series. You don't have to read the first 4 first. In fact, there's somebody I know right now who started with the 5th book and went back and is reading the other 4.
Starting with the 5th one, it's a good jumping on point. Read the 3rd one, it's the best one.
You can also follow me on Twitch. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday in the evening Eastern Standard Time. Mostly RPGs, interestingly enough. And otherwise, you can go to the Patreon. You can be like Rob. You can give me some money every month, beginning of the month. You don't have to give a lot, but every amount that you give is one step closer to me being able to do cool shit like this full time. And I have a lot of great ideas. I just don't have the time and or incentive to do it. So there we have it. That is the intro spiel.
And now, with proper amounts of deliberation, let us move towards explaining what we are doing today on this, the Two Nerds Podcast.
Please don't make this NPR.
Beginning of the year, we revisited an old top 10 list of our 10 favorite fictional characters. We decided to break it down, do our top 5's various subgroups of fictional characters, and revisit it maybe at the end of the year, see if they've changed. This is part of that process. We are counting down the top 5, our favorite, I was going to say best, but that's not true, our favorite X-Men related Marvel villains. We split off the X-Men from the rest of the Marvel universe because they are very much like David S. Pumpkins, their own fucking thing.
Here's the thing, though. And here's where my dilemma came in. I love the X-Men.
Right.
And I do agree, they are very separate from the rest of the Marvel universe. They're a different flavored thing.
Yeah.
I think the closest you get in proper Marvel is Spider-Man, but even he feels different.
He has the same sort of soapy energy,
yes.
But he's a shonen protagonist. These are soap opera characters.
Sure, yeah. Or a space opera, or pro wrestling, or what have you.
Right.
So, with the villains, first of all, there's not that many X-Men exclusive villains.
Yeah, even the ones who are primarily X-Men villains will usually mix it up with other members of the Marvel Universe on occasion. Much more so than the reverse.
And often aren't mutants, which is a good qualifier for what counts as an X-Man and what doesn't.
But, yeah, you're right, often are not, in fact, mutants. And it is much more so than the reverse. You're much more likely to see a primary X-Men villain fight the Avengers than you are to see the X-Men fight an Avengers villain.
Yeah. And because of the way the X-Men morality has changed over the years, a lot of people have gone back and forth.
It's very much pro wrestling. You kind of hit the nail on the head. Some of these people might be heels, but there are precious few actual, full dickheads in the X-Men villain oeuvre. A lot of them are people who are doing something that is bad, who have made some bad choices and are engaging in some damaging acts, but who have very legitimate grievances with the world around them that drove them to this point. And that really lends itself to the heel face turn and the Big Show revolving door therefrom.
And it's also part of what I love about the X-Men. I mean, not like consciously the good guys and bad guys keep changing sides. It's just that everything is so fucking complicated for them.
It is very Shades of Grey.
Yes.
And Marvel is already the Shades of Grey comics company, and the X-Men really are really doing the hash lines about it, man.
But the other thing about X-Men villains is that, like, you know, there's a couple near the top. There's probably, I'd say, 10-ish one could consider to be top-tier awesome X-Men villains. Your personal preferences then invading and changing things around. And then the rest are, like, trash tier.
The rest are one-offs.
Yeah.
Like, they showed up, the X-Men put them the fuck down, and they never came back.
Or they show up all the time and no one cares.
And it takes them an afternoon to get their shit rocked.
Looking at you, Mastermind.
Yeah. So, like, it's hard. And the X-Men have also a lot of personal villains, where they're not necessarily X-Men villains, they are Wolverine villains, or...
Well, and I would count that as an X-Men villain, but, like, at the same time, a lot of times those villains are like, my dad hates me.
Yeah, it's very personal. Like, very personal in a way that makes it hard for the rest of the team to, like jump in and help.
Fuck the bullies that were mean to Sammy the Squid, but also, number 5 on my list isn't the bullies that were mean to Sammy the Squid.
I mean, in a way.
Well, yeah, in a way. You know, that sounds like as good a reason as any to roll right into it. My number 5 for the list is specific and then grows more broad as I go out. Let's start with the very specific, William Stryker. I feel like Stryker, in whatever version of the character, whether he's a reverend, whether he's a military guy, whatever the fuck he's doing, is the perfect human antagonist to the X-Men.
Better than Senator Kelly in every way.
Yeah, he represents everything about what society in general does negatively toward mutant kind.
This is going to be a hard character to speak on in the comparative way I usually talk about fictional characters, without delving into territory we do not cover on the Two Nerds podcast. But if Senator Kelly is the needle-dicked, ineffectual politician version of the people the X-Men are, the people who are mean to the people the X-Men are an allegory for, William Stryker is the down-home, full-throated yelling version of those people, and thus is a better antagonist.
So this extends also out to the Purifiers, because I think the scariest thing about this kind of threat is that there are so many people who are willing to get on board with it.
Yes.
I mean, if I may recite Disney lyrics, they are different from us, therefore they must be evil.
That is an unpleasant thing to acknowledge about the human condition, is how easy so many of us find it to sign on with that sentiment if you just put a couple layers in front of it.
And they're well armed, thanks to William Stryker's sweet, sweet mun-muns. Extended from this are the Church of Humanity, who are a separate organization, but still, I mean, they're less well-armed Purifiers. And honestly, my number 5 slot could be Society. Bottom text. The mutants, the best part of the mutant struggle,
they're downtrodden.
Is they're downtrodden. They shoot lasers out of their eyes and can fly and be set on fire, and they're like, no, I'm fine, it's cool, fam. They regenerate, and still, like, they're sad all the time.
Because it doesn't really matter at the end of the day how strong or fast or good you are if the great mass of human society has declared you the Untermensch. It's still going to be shitty to go to the goddamn DMV. Even if you can shoot lasers.
Yeah, because you can't be shooting lasers at the DMV.
And the only other option you have is to say, well then fuck society, I'm going to do what I want, and that's how you get everyone else on our list.
Speaking of fuck society,
that was an intentional segue. So sometimes there's a comics trope. It's called Reed Richard is useless. It's more of a critique trope than an actual thing that is represented in universe. It is the idea that if these amazing super scientists exist, why haven't they solved all of society's ills by now? Where's the cancer cure, Reed Richards? Where's the cure for leukemia, Lex Luthor? That shit. Sometimes that's a good critique. But not in the case of my number 5. Because Sauron doesn't want to fucking cure cancer. He wants to turn people into dinosaurs. And sometimes, god damn it, that is all you need. I like a man who knows what he's about, and Sauron wants to fucking turn people into dinosaurs.
We're talking about like a F-tier X-Men villain. Like I said, you got about 10, maybe a dozen that are top tier, and the rest are garbage. He's just a big pterodactyl scientist.
And he wants to turn people into dinosaurs. Literally, the famous panel where he says that's a meme, he's fighting Spider-Man in that. But he is primarily an X-Men villain, so he goes on this fucking list.
Spider-Man was there with the X-Men.
Yes.
He was substitute teaching.
It's just so good. It is so pure. It is a pure, undiluted sentiment of cackling, whimsical malice that if you've paid attention to a thread in the things I like about villains, there is a place for a villain who just wants to do bad things. Because he wants to, fuck you. Sometimes it's not complex. I like complex. The rest of the people on this list are mostly pretty complex characters. But it ain't always gotta be that. Sometimes Dr. Demento is gonna fucking turn the moon into demons, and you gotta stop him!
That line was such an uplift. Like, that comic panel. Because he's off in the Savage Land. You forget about him, you know?
Yeah.
You fight him. Storm is just like, whatever, Fury of the Winds,
You're
blow
a
this bitch
literal,
off my plane.
You're a pterodactyl.
I'm not about
That's
this,
not important. Goodbye, sir.
I have students that could kick your ass effortlessly. Not if I turn them into dinosaurs first.
Yes!
But that fucking line is like, you know what? You're all right, Sauron. You hang out.
What about you, sir? Who's your next one? Who's your number 4?
So this is a controversial opinion because he's so low. But y'all know me. I don't rest on my laurels a lot. I don't just go, look at him, he's iconic, and call that a day. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but, like, it's a blessing and a curse, you know? I can't just be like, oh, Captain America's so good, because he's good. You look at him, he's Captain America. It's harder for me to enjoy things than other, just this A+. Look at, fine, move on with life. So that's why my number 4 is Magneto. You've got this in your honorable mention, so I don't have a problem bringing it up right now. If that's all right with you. I would have put the Hellfire Club or a lot of its members on my list, because I think they're really cool. They're a cool organization, a cool society. They're clandestine. They've got that whole...
There's a reason they're on my honorable mentions. They're an excellent villain for the X-Men.
Yes.
They are the elite.
Yeah. And they're like, they've got that Aleister Crowley vibe to them, too.
And they are genetic traitors. Because they're the elite, but they're mutants. But they do not help their fellow mutants.
No. A great organization. However, one of its best members is mostly these days treated as a joke.
Yes.
I'm speaking of Sebastian Shaw. And the other one of its members is a good guy X-Man now. And that is Emma Frost, which I don't...
She didn't even make my honorable mention because she's so much better as a villain, but they face-turned her so hard that she's not one anymore.
No, she just isn't. She's just a bitch.
She would have been on my list. She was a great villain.
Fantastic.
The White Queen was a humongous, unstoppable bitch. Great. That's a great villain.
But now she's the Karen that works at your school. And
now she's fucking Karen, and that's not a good... I disagree with that choice.
It's like people pointing at Vicky Guerrero, back in the day and going, no, she's nice, we like her. I don't think you're right, man. I'm pretty sure she sucks. But, so in that same way, Magneto is so, right about... God, so much.
God, you do love Kid Omega, don't you?
I do. He's absolutely coming from a good place, but these are comic book writers, so they were like, and Magneto, instead of exhibiting any critical thinking, is just like, And I'm going to fight the X-Men about this. We're going to rob a bank about this. We're going to knock some shit over about this.
He's coming from an understandable place.
Sure. I mean, like, Magneto, it's one of those things. It is a good villain that is, he's got all this really understandable pathos, especially given his origins, to be upset with an oppressive force of humanity and want to take the reins and be like, haha, now's my turn, bitch. But, like, as the more time goes on, the more sympathetic portrayals of the character, the more he gets ground down, and even Magneto, as a character, like, trots out in front of Professor X, and Professor X looks at him like, are we actually doing this? And he's like, yeah, you got a point. Now, don't get me wrong. A lot of those portrayals of Magneto are amazing. In terms of acting ability, in terms of writing, like I said, a good villain is that. But here's also maybe an aspect of why he's my number 4. As I said, there's about a dozen good X-Men villains, and he's one of them. There's not that many others in rotation. I've seen Magneto. I've seen him a lot. He's the one you go to. You get tired of Lex Luthor, theoretically, you can get tired of Magneto. I'm not saying I'm tired of him. I'm just saying he's been around. He's been around the block. Let's move to your number 4.
My number 4 is Mystique, Raven Darkholme. I'm gonna be honest, a part of this is because she is a really good example of a well-done, like, familial arc in comics. Mystique and her children, adopted or otherwise, make for really good TV, as it were.
I like how Mystique's always trying to do shit.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is Mystique, as a villain, and yeah, she's on my villains list. Fuck you. Is great because she's, one, you're right, proactive. Very rarely does she not have some fucking irons in the fire. She's here for her own reasons. She's doing her own thing. Even if she's working with another villain, she usually has another angle. I like that. I love that she's very self-possessed and knows what she's about. I also like that she... there's a line. It actually is from the original X-Men movies, and it sums it up. People like you are the reason I was afraid to go to school as a child. Raven Darkholme is an excellent example of a shitty situation and a society that abandons people, turning those people into monsters because they have no incentive to be anything else. What incentive does Mystique have not to be an absolute self-absorbed dickhead? None. Zero. Society's not going to reward her for trying to be a good person. So she doesn't. She gets hers. And that is fucking great. Also, she's just a really good gimmick for a villain. Not being able to trust that the people around you are the people around you is excellent paranoia fuel and makes her really effective in almost every usage. That would be kind of a fun storyline with Mystique in a less serious comic, is that, like, one of the characters in the comic was her the whole time, but she kind of lost track and was just vibing with it. Yeah, that would be good.
She reveals herself and she's like, I had an evil plan. I honestly don't remember most of it. Something to do with Cyclops? I've just been enjoying my time here, but now I feel kind of weird, so I'm going to go.
Yeah.
Smoke bomb out. No, the thing I realized is that this is your Black Widow.
Yes, this is my Black Widow. Mystique is Black Widow for me. It is very important to me that she have her own agenda. It is very important to me that you not be able to fucking trust her. Anytime Mystique is on screen, even if she's working with the heroes, you should in the back of your head go, I don't know about this. That's important. That's an important part of the fucking character. And if you take that shit out, it's gonna piss me off. This is my Black Widow.
Yeah.
Trust me, man. I understood where you were coming from with Nat years ago. I had it played before me in giant fucking resolution on a big TV. Because I did not watch those movies in theaters.
We still haven't watched The Age of Apocalypse.
And we won't be doing so.
I might catch it eventually. But
that's on you.
Yeah, it's on me. Hey, I watched the Justice League, so,
Yeah, sometimes you make bad decisions.
I'm made to suffer by myself. Anything else to say about Mystique? I agree with basically everything you said.
No, I'm good. I had my little rant. I feel good about it.
All right, so let's get to our number 3.
Yeah. We don't collaborate on these lists. We do our list. I do my list. He does his. We put them together and we do the podcast. We, by sheer coincidence, literally have the same exact character at number 3. Because, well...
He's the Juggernaut.
No. I can't. It's too on the nose. Bitch! I had to!
Even if it wasn't for that cartoon, even before that cartoon, I loved the Juggernaut. I love
the Juggernaut in spite of that fucking cartoon. Aside from that one line, I find most of that cartoon fucking insufferable.
I have a hard time watching it now, but man, when it got big, it was pretty funny. And there's still some lines in there that make me, like, fucking, I'm ketchup and you must be mustard. What the fuck? But anyway, like, I love the storyline. I love his relationship with Professor X. I love how that all works. I like that the man will just show up at your doorstep and start punching your house.
Yeah, it's time for Juggernaut to fight your house. You gotta do something about that.
And, like, later on in life, when I went into looking through all of his comic book shit, the best part about the Juggernaut is that he is basically your little brother playing pretend with you. And that's the fact.
Yeah, he has an everything-proof shield. He's broken. He's a dick. And he knows it. Because he has a broken-ass power set. You can't stop, nothing stops the Juggernaut. The Juggernaut is unstoppable.
All right, well then I'm going to pour you in concrete, encase you in the hardest steel-woven concrete deep under the earth. What are you going to do about that? I'll vibrate slightly, as much as I can, move my body. I will move it.
And then, which will cause me to develop momentum, which will activate my Sidorak powers, which will cause me to bust out, and then I come and fight your house.
Or I get drunk and do some mercenary work for a while.
It's really, I could do whatever I want. I'm the Juggernaut.
And I like the cosmic shit they get into, too. I like Sidorak. I like his weird relationship with Doctor Strange because of that.
Yeah, because he is the avatar of one of the elemental evils, essentially. He's the champion of the fucking Sidorak. Doctor Strange has to take him seriously. Doctor Strange fights outer gods. And he has to take this dickhead who usually spends most of his time either doing menial mercenary work or fighting his big brother for, because reasons. Doctor Strange has to take this guy seriously, because if Jugsy ever decides to, he could be a real fucking problem.
He's the immovable fucking rod that,
Clang!
Yeah. And Doctor Strange sees it go by and go, no, I have to take care of that. Someone should probably go. And off he flies.
I love that his one weakness is being forced to think.
He's so maladjusted. Juggernaut is your high school bully, given a magic power suit that lets him have anything he wants if he punches hard enough.
He is your high school bully. He's Flash Thompson being given ultimate power.
He's the way Flash Thompson would have gone if the Agent Venom shit never happened. He's gonna squish your little head into the ground. He's Brock Lesnar.
He would look at you and go, "Shut up, nerd," and then shove you into a locker.
Yes.
That's great.
Through a locker and the next 2 walls. What a great villain. And I liked his time as a hero. I liked him when he got some therapy, basically. I was like, you know what?
I'm sorry. Asshole. He had to get nerfed because, as we all know, if you turn the villain into a hero, they have to be weaker so that there's a challenge. Because normally, Jugsy can fight the entire X-Men team to a standstill unless they have a telepath handy.
And someone really good at taking off his hat.
Usually Nightcrawler.
Yes. Yeah, phenomenal character. What more is there to say about him?
Memes.
What a phenomenal
You know them
meme.
all.
Yeah. I believe we moved to your number 2. Is that how this has been working?
Well, we went from Mystique to the Juggernaut, so...
Yeah, so it's back to...
which would have been my number 3. So back to you. What's your number 2?
I don't know if that's right, and I don't care. My number 2 is Dark Beast, which is basically his ethos, I think. I don't know if that's right, and I don't care.
I don't even know he does the first bit.
I don't care.
I don't care if that's right.
I don't care if that's right. It's science. Or whatever I want at the moment. Why Dark Beast in my top 5 and not Beast? It's a similar reason to Hank McCoy. It's a similar reason to Bane. He's a genius. Or Hank McCoy, similar reason to the Juggernaut. He's a genius, as you said, who then gets mutant powers and is now swole also.
Yeah.
He's got everything good. He's got all the goods. He doesn't have a weakness.
No.
You know what Dark Beast's weakness is? Me either.
Yeah, because he's got A+. The only way you beat Dark Beast is by being better than him at something that he's already good at, because he's good at all things.
Yeah. And he's so smug. Such a grinning, like...
Oh, yes, trust me, dude. Part of the reason that Dark Beast isn't on this list of mine is because I knew he was going to be on yours. And this is me stepping back so that the others can be happy together.
You're now part of the love triangle, removing yourself. I appreciate that. Dark Beast also, as if you listened to another podcast we did, the last one, a character I wrote a lot for. But again, wrote him just as he is in the comics. He's just a dick, full of himself, and strong enough to back it up.
Yeah, he's smug and self-centered and smarmy, and if you do what you would normally do with a villain who has all those traits and stuff them in a locker, he will instead eat your fucking face.
Yeah, if Juggernaut tried to stuff him in the locker and go, nerd, he would jump around the Juggernaut's hand, take off his helmet, and bap him with it.
And then, like, do a long-winded diatribe whilst dodging the Juggernaut, explaining all of the things that are wrong with Kane, Marco, and all of his psychological foibles until Juggernaut gets sad and leaves.
He is the perhaps best example of a bad guy version of a good guy. He is everything you would fear when looking at Hank McCoy, the blue furry friend, and going, God, I'm glad he's on our side.
Yeah, it would sure be real shit if Hank McCoy decided to turn heel. Yeah, it turns out, yes, that's exactly what it is. It's really shit.
Also, really shit for Hank McCoy, because it's like, I will go farther than you. You know how you kind of like pull back a little bit?
And go, oh, that wouldn't be ethical. We couldn't do that. I'm going to do all that stuff.
I'm going to do it all.
I'm going to do all that stuff, so if we science fight, I'll win, because I'm willing to go further.
Every fist fight I'll win, because I'll try to kill your ass.
And you won't do the same to me, pussy.
Dark Beast, he's good. Good villain. Strong. Smart.
Good.
Fuzzy.
Yes.
Alright, so now we're to your number 2.
Yeah. My number 2, my second favorite X-Men villain, is Sabretooth. And this one's all credit to White Raven. I liked Sabretooth
Really?
just fine. Yeah. I like Sabretooth just fine. He's a good villain for mostly Wolverine. Usually can fight 2 or 3 X-Men. Good look. Solid power set. Wolverine, but, a little to the left. But White Raven used to do a lot of various forms of fan fiction, quests, that sort of thing, where he wrote Sabretooth. And I fucking love them so much, he made me love Sabretooth. Sabretooth is... If Juggernaut is Flash Thompson, Sabretooth is that guy who wasn't a bully generally, but he picked one fucking kid to ruin his life just for fun, and was otherwise like a cool guy, but a little shitty. That's Sabretooth, and the one kid is Wolverine. He has the most ridiculous Reverse Flash-like fucking...
Yeah.
unnecessary vendetta for Logan. Like, it was me, Logan. I went back in time and took away your memories. I would believe that. That would track.
Like, the thing that a lot of people, 90s kids, remember is that Sabretooth would show up whenever it was Wolverine's birthday, find his ass, and beat the shit out of him. Until his birthday was over. And, like, that's kind of a neat comics hook, but the fridge horror of that, looking at it and going, that man can't even enjoy his fucking birthday because one guy goes, you know what I'm going to do for the rest of time?
Yeah, because I know when your birthday is, so I will always find you on that day, and you will spend that entire day getting your shit pushed in by me, because I'm you, but bigger and stronger. I'm going to beat you up on your birthday every day for the rest of time because we're both immortal.
He's got that Dark Beast vibe, except that he really wants to fuck up Beast. Dark Beast is doing his own shit.
Like, he will fuck Beast up if it's convenient.
And sometimes it's to fuck
Sabretooth absolutely is driven by the need to fucking ruin Logan's life. Anytime he gets an option, anytime he gets the opportunity, anytime he has the opportunity to somehow convince Logan that they can work together and then immediately betray him, he absolutely will take it. He is Wolverine's Reverse Flash, and is all the better for it.
It's quality. Well, we've got honorable mentions. I suppose I shall go first.
You have more.
I do have more. I always have more. I love so many characters. Mojo, I think he's one of those top tier villains, but for me, he's just not enough to get on my top 5. I mean, and it's hard to say that Magneto isn't better, you know. But Mojo, for those who aren't aware, is a big, fat, yellow spaceman who is in charge of TV, especially reality TV. He's gimmicky. He's like a wrestling promoter. He's like every negative stereotype you can think about that thing that you've seen in every cartoon ever. Viciously capitalist, always in the face of entertainment.
He's a Captain fucking Planet villain, but for the X-Men.
But he's got enough power to be like, all right, X-Men, now you have to fight Blur, and I'm going to record it and sell tickets. Yeah!
And they have to do that because he's like a cosmic entity. They have to do what he fucking says.
Ultimate's Toad, specifically. Toad in general, you can get some good Toads.
A general Toad is a good Toad, but Ultimate Toad is, 1, the only good thing to come out of Ultimates, and 2, great.
He's a perfect Toad.
Best version of the character, hands down.
As much as I kind of riffed on him in the last podcast, I like Black Tom Cassidy. I like the story of the two brothers turned different ways between him and Banshee. And I like that his powers are so absurd and he does his best to make it work. I like that for a while he was just a big tree.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. And he's got a sick mustache goatee combo. Very nice. Arcade, always doing fun, cool shit. He's like, what if the Joker never left his house?
What if the Joker was a Hikimori?
I've also got Sauron on my honorable mentions. And Garrock, who was in like 2 comics ever. He's a big stone dude who was once a god. He died by hubris.
But you just like how he looks?
I just thought it was a cool story. No, he looks like shit. Oh. I thought it was a cool story, and it was cool. It was something cool that happened in the Savage Land. I usually get so fucking tired of the Savage Land in the X-Men.
Oh, yeah, it's also boring to look at. It's just big green.
Yeah, but, like, Garrock felt compelling, you know? And it was one of those first stories I'd seen like that, where some powerful mutant was like, oh, no, I am a god, you don't understand. And they're like, no, you don't understand. You live on a weird tiny island in the middle of nowhere. We fought that Juggernaut last week.
You don't matter, bud.
I mean, you're pretty good, don't get me wrong, but...
Sometimes the X-Men will find a medium fish in a very small pond and re-relate to them the overall size dynamic they're working with.
I mean, like, I would say that Garrock is a big fish in a very small pond, even a colossal whale-like fish in a very small pond. But, like, they fight people that are like 2 T-Rexes taped together, working in tandem, full of ninja bees.
And that's like their average Wednesday,
yeah.
So you just don't rate, bud.
What about your honorable mentions, my friend?
Toad, with special nod to Ultimate Toad, because again, just the best version of the character. Hellfire Club, who we mentioned earlier, and Mr. Sinister, for mostly the same reasons that you have Dark Beast. He's just an asshole. He's just an asshole.
He's just like, I think that's both the reason he's great and the reason I don't care for him.
He's worse Dark Beast. And
he's just a guy who leans out from behind a corner every now and then and goes
yeah. You know what else is the reason he didn't get on the list? He's just an asshole, but he's a weird creepster about it.
He is. He's got a good cape though.
God, fucking A+ cape. Great look too.
I bet if you sat down Mr. Sinister,
sharp teeth, all white. Anyway,
filled him full of like truth serum and asked him, really though, why are you doing this? He'd be like, I don't know, fam. This seemed funny.
Oh, yeah, you gotta do this truth serum. That's pretty much what he says. Yeah. He's doing it to amuse himself.
All right, my number 1. It feels strange, but no, he's still probably the best villain in the X-Men. Is Sabretooth. And it's not just because of the stuff we just discussed, which I was a little more candid with than I usually am, because his rivalry with Wolverine, while an important part of the character's backbone, Sabretooth is basically all the previous villains rolled into one. He's not as unstoppable as the Juggernaut.
But he's reasonably unstoppable.
He's not as smart as Dark Beast.
But he's not stupid.
And he's also the worst person.
Yeah, he's a fucking awful human being.
Like, I mean, there are different versions of all these characters. You know, sometimes Sabretooth can be kind of a
We're
good
talking
guy.
about the good versions. Like, well, I don't mean, like, heroic. I mean the versions we like the best.
And even if you take all of these elements at once, Sabretooth is one of those people who's done enough shit that's unforgivable. It doesn't matter how many fucking churches he built. Like, you take William Stryker and the Purifiers, they're fighting for something they believe in. You take Magneto, he is fighting back against the people who have wronged him. You take the Juggernaut, and he's just confused and sad. You take Dark Beast, and he's living his best life. Sabretooth wants to hurt people.
Yeah, he's a petty sadist.
He will go to hellish lengths to hurt people. Not just Wolverine, but especially Wolverine. And, like, he's a bad, bad man.
He is the kind of person who pulls the wings off flies. Like, but that guy, if he was immortal, had knife hands and regenerated. So he can do whatever the fuck he wants. And what he wants chiefly is to ruin one guy's life. However, he will also ruin the lives of everyone else around him, because that's also fun. You know how, like, your favorite food might be steak, but a burger is also good? His favorite food might be the suffering of Wolverine, but, like, the suffering of really anybody else is pretty good, too.
I also like the times they have tried to give him the goodness, shown that good side to him, and, you know, delved into the mystery behind the man, because somebody loves the worst person you know, and they have good reasons for it. And that makes it harder. And it's that beautiful thing where the worst guy in X-Men canon, like a literal actual rapist.
And not like one time. That was not like a one time Hank McCoy slapped a lady once, and then it became a meme. No, he does that as like a hobby.
Like, he's, you know, compelling. He's human. And that's everything in the X-Men rolled up into this person.
Yeah, there's a reason he's my number 2.
Which is something you could say about...
So earlier, I was pretty mum about a character, and this is the reason why. My number 1 is Magneto. Eric Lenscher, the master of magnetism, father and brother and mentor to so many other characters in that whole comics universe. Leader of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which is, side note, a great fucking name for him to have chosen, because that is some fucking take it back shit. Magneto is fucking perfect. He is a perfect comic book villain. He has, hands down, of all of the X-Men characters, what's probably the most sympathetic backstory.
I would agree with that.
Just hands down, far and away, the most sympathetic. Way more sympathetic than Charles Xavier, who's essentially a rich child who never had to confront reality because he was born rich and lived rich and then got a really broke good mutant power, and then one sad thing happened to him and he fucking became a booby about it for the rest of his life. Magneto has the most sympathetic backstory. He has experienced the most pure example of human suffering that we have as an example, so much so that we restrict ourselves in polite conversation from using it as an example because it's so over the fucking top. And he didn't overcome it. He didn't turn it into something positive. He's not someone who overcame adversity. He took that suffering and he turned it into steel. He turned it into fire, and he resolved that that would never happen again. Not to his people. Never again. And that's perfect, because he is the perfect X-Men villain, because he is the ideological mirror to Charles Xavier. Charles Xavier is infinite patience and infinite forgiveness and infinite willingness to work with the people who are actively making your life worse. Magneto looks at that and says, no, that is horse shit. We deserve better. But he is a villain because as much as he is right about so much, occasionally he does do a genocide. He took all of that fire and all of that passion that could have been used to further the cause of his people, and he let it poison him and turn him into basically the thing he grew up hating. He is a mutant Nazi. And and it is so well done that is his shtick. Like, that is so believable and human and perfect. And I love that he has a complex relationship with his oldest friend, where neither of them can really bring themselves to go all out against the other because they have that camaraderie for so long. I love that he has a very complex relationship with most other mutants, because he ultimately sees himself as their savior, as their father figure, as someone who wants the best for them. But he is, at the end of the day, an unthinking, unreasoning, violent bigot. Because he is the cycle of abuse writ large. I fucking love Magneto.
I think if every Magneto was your Magneto, I think if, like, the history we've had of him hasn't been so many face heel turns, which is ironically intrinsic, as I said, to X-Men in general, and part of why I love the comic. If Magneto were treated as untouchable in that way and was always that, he would be a monolith against all other X-Men villains, even maybe characters. Like, you're absolutely correct. That kind of raw emotion and, like, tragedy, and because, you know, that's probably the worst thing that ever happened to Charles Xavier, is watching his friend fall and never come back.
And having no way to stop him, because at the end of the day, Charles Xavier can't argue Magneto out of a place Magneto didn't argue himself into. Magneto's worldview isn't logical. It isn't based in reason. It's based in trauma. It's based in suffering so pure and acute that you can't relate to it if you haven't gone through it. You can look at it and try. You can't argue someone out of that position. No one's ever going to be able to talk Magneto down.
Well, and the beautiful thing, and what makes the characters so iconic as well, is that out of everybody, Charles could just reach inside his little head and fix him.
But he doesn't, because he has more respect for the man than that.
Yeah, and because he's a good and honorable man.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Again, we don't fucking talk about that. I may meme on Charles Xavier, but I'm allowed. You fucking stop, comic book writers.
Yeah. Anything else that you'd like to say about...
No, I think that, like, again, I mean, yeah, I could just repeat the same stuff I said with different words, but that's pretty much the size of it.
Yeah, I would agree. Well said, my friend.
Everything's better when nerds talk about it. Fuck it.